England versus India. The Cricket Badger Test Match Daily Podcast. Can Joe Root's England dominate on home soil? 5 mouth-watering test matches. Can Virat Kohli's India conquer the final frontier? Loving to talk test cricket every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome along. Here's another edition of the Cricket Badger podcast, the England against India Test Match Dailies. And we've just seen at the end of day 3 curtailed by a little bit of bad light. And as you can see, I am joined by my 3 fan badgers. Got two today. Mark Hilton and Rito Mitra are with me. So we've got 2 English fans on today. And it wasn't probably the best of days for England today. India were looking like they were going to seize complete control of this test match. Then a double wicket salvo from Ollie Robinson with a new ball just hauled England back into it a little bit. But we close at the end of day 3 with India building a very sizable advantage in the test match, Mark. And it's going to be tough work for England tomorrow, I think, isn't it? Because that pitch doesn't look too bad for batting on.
No, it's a typical oval pitch, and they get flatter as the game goes on. So day 3 and 4 is usually the best days for batting. Tomorrow, it's predicted. I mean, it's been sunny here in Bristol all day. It always is in Bristol sunny, but it's predicted to be sunny tomorrow in London and on Friday. Kohli tonight looked in good form to me. Looked in good neck to me. So England would have been disappointed that the light came tonight. They would have probably liked, obviously, another hour with that new ball at it. And if they don't get a couple of early wickets in the morning, I think they're staring down the barrel. India already 170 in front. If they get a lead of 300, then I think that will be enough. So it could be a long day in the dirt tomorrow for England up to tea if they don't get an early wicket or 2 in the morning.
I was looking at it today and thinking, well, India could, if with a fair wind, and if at the time, if Rohit and Pujara had stayed in, obviously with the Kohli and the Pant and Jadeja, etc., to come, could have been something like 450 ahead at tea tomorrow. And then you're looking at giving England 4 very problematic sessions to try and battle through to probably save the draw, which is not going to be easy.
No, I think the draw. I don't think it'll be a draw this game. I think India are obviously in the box seat at the moment. If they get to that 300 lead, that'll be enough. Certainly, if they bat till tea time tomorrow, as you say, it could be nearer 400 than 300. A couple of sessions with Pant, and if Kohli gets going, I can't see it being a draw. The only thing that might save England if they have to chase that many runs is that, we go back to it, that at some point in this series, not having Ashwin in the side could come back to haunt you a little bit. It's a very flat wicket now. It's a good wicket. The sun's going to be out. If ever you wanted a top class spin bowler, it would be in the last innings of this test match because it could win in the series. Weather forecast for Manchester next week is a little bit iffy. I can't see a draw. But I think they may take a lot longer to get England out without Ashwin, and if it does end in a draw, then obviously the lack of Ashwin will be questioned again. But I think India, if they get a lead of 300, will win the game.
Rohit Sharma, one of my favourite players in world cricket. His bat looks ridiculously wide when he's playing well. It's a big, heavy tree trunk as well that he wafts around. I'm a big fan of the IPL. Rohit Sharma captains the team that I support in the IPL, as Rito knows, and anybody that's tuned into the IPL podcast knows I'm a fan of the Mumbai Indians. And Rohit Sharma, I think, is a terrific player, one of the best in the world when it comes to across all formats. And he's starting to get to grips with Test cricket abroad now, isn't he? Because he's always been pretty dominant on Indian soil, averages nearly 80 in home Test matches, but his average was below 30 ahead of this Test match innings. He's had a good series so far, but the only thing missing was the century, Rito. and he played beautifully today, I felt.
Yeah, Rohit Sharma is a classy batsman. We have always wondered how he has such a fine ODI record and not such a great Test record. Now he is starting to put that to bed now. Yes, he was fortuitous in this innings. He was dropped twice on both occasions by Rory Burns, but that's no fault of his. And he made took full opportunity of those chances that he was offered by the England fielders. When he plays well, there's no other batsman who times the ball as well as Rohit Sharma. Just the kind of shots he plays all around the dial, and he makes batting look very easy.
He did do until the new ball was taken, and he was 127. He was flying. He was threatening to really take the match away from England, Rito, and then he got a fairly innocuous long hoppish. Really, he wasn't a particularly short ball, and he tried to put it away. His biggest weakness in this series has been finding the hands of the fielder down at fine leg, and he did it again today. And it just threatened for a while. I mean, I was disappointed for him because he played so well. He deserved to go off with just positivity in mind, and he went off with disappointment in mind, really, because he held that to fine leg. Chris Woakes taking a fairly simple catch down there, but that just threatened to open the door a little bit for England, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was a rank long up Ollie Robinson, and it was more like very gentle pace. And Rohit Sharma, he just tried to nudge it around the corner, and it went all the way down to Chris Woakes at fine leg. And then Ollie Robinson got Jadeshwar Pujara in the over again, and it opened the doors for England, and England thought they had an opportunity. But the partnership between Virat Kohli and Ravindra Jadeja has done well to steady the ship. India ahead by 170 odd with 3 wickets in hand. It's going to be a very, very vital session tomorrow morning. Once again, if England can take 4-5 wickets, it's going to be game on again for England.
Yes, a big if though, I reckon. That'll lead 171 runs at close on day 3. And obviously the Rohit Sharma wicket mark was followed very shortly afterwards by the wicket of Cheteshwar Pujara. And I kind of felt for Virat Kohli a little bit because he'd been sat there all day. He'd been watching Rohit and Pujara, finding it relatively comfortable. And then all of a sudden, the whole dynamic of the game had changed. England had got the new ball in hand. He was going in with the ball zipping around all over the place. And you're thinking, if you're Virat Kohli, you're thinking, what have I done wrong today? Which gods have I offended? Because he suddenly got the wrong end of the deal. But he did really well, didn't he, to battle his way through that?
Yeah, I mean, beauty of Test cricket, isn't it? We had 2 sessions where India batted serenely and England didn't look much for it. New ball, 1 over, 2 wickets, game on again. Cloudy conditions, comes out to bat Kohler. He's probably the best player, well, one of the best players in the world, obviously. So I don't feel too sorry for him coming out to bat in that situation. But yeah, I think he looked good tonight. He looked in control tonight. I think he looked the best tonight. I think I've seen him in the series in terms of his fluency.
I thought he looked good in the first innings as well. The signs are good for Virat, aren't they?
The signs are good. He seemed to be just getting a bit of touch back. I mean, he hasn't had a disastrous series. He's got 250. So everyone's talking about him as though he hasn't scored any runs. And he's, I know he ain't got a ton for a while.
Well, this is the problem, though, with great players or great modern-day players. Like Joe Root has a poor series. He averages 34. Rory Burns, in his Test career, averages 32 or something like that. Yeah, the low bar for these guys is actually probably just as good as the high bar for some of the more sort of mere mortals.
Yeah, and I think social media and the Indian fans in particular get they're up and down like yo-yos in terms of the performance, and there's a little bit of overreaction to Kohli at times. And but for me, he looked very calm and composed tonight. And if he gets himself in tomorrow, if he bats an hour and he gets himself in, then it's going to be trouble for England because he's, as you say, he looks good and he's due a ton. And he could punish them tomorrow on what could be a very hot day on a flat wicket. So, and England's bowling, he looked very, we've said it before, he looked very samey. Once the wicket went flat, they didn't have a point of difference. And in the afternoon session, I think they struggled a bit.
They're missing Jofra, they're missing Mark Wood, they're missing somebody that can just crank it up for a few overs and bowl at 93, 94 and bowl a short delivery and just hurry the batsman, because everything was kind of right arm, fast medium, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Robinson, for example, I mean, he's got Sharma out with bouncers in 2 Test matches, I think. I don't think I saw him bowl a bouncer today. There was no, it just, it was all very same. You needed someone there to run in, rough them up a bit, hit them on the head maybe, a few throat balls, get them a bit roughed up. But obviously, we've got a very predictable attack in that respect. When the wicket goes flat, when the sun comes out, I know the sun wasn't out today, but generally that's when England have struggled in Test matches. And, it happened again this afternoon, which does worry you when they go to Australia. And Moeen didn't offer much control today either. And that Root would have wanted him to bowl more than 12 overs, I'm sure. But
we'll come back to the bowlers for England because I want to talk a bit more in depth about a few of them. But I'm just going through some of the comments. Thank you very much for those. Ashutosh, who's been a regular over the last few days, he says, this is a pitch where only batsman can get out by his own mistakes. And famious day of Indian batting, but once again sending Jadeja in to face the new ball. It worked, but I hope Rahane can capitalise on it tomorrow. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, if you're Rahane, you're the vice captain in this team, Rito. You're a frontline batsman. And you see Jadeja, who is a good batsman, but he's an all-rounder in the side, batting in your place, basically, at number 5. It's kind of a little bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it? It must affect his pride a little bit. He's supposed to be in the top 5.
It might be, but Rahan is such a nice guy. What's good for the team, he will take it. Whether it's him moving down 1+ in the batting order, if that's good for the team, for the batting side of things, then he will accept it because he knows himself. He hasn't been in the runs and he has been getting out to the same kind of a delivery. So if India are looking to just change things up a bit, now in the first innings it looked like that it was a makeshift change with Jadeja coming up. As Rahane was just putting in his inner gloves, it looked very bad on camera. That he had to take those off once again, but this time it looked like they are going to stick with the same plan to make it look better this time.
Vasant's been in touch. He says Rohit really deserved his 100. Hard work in Nottingham, perseverance and discipline in Lords. The first innings helped him to this 100 at the Oval, he says. And to be honest, Rito, that's what Rohit's done, isn't it? He's really batted within himself. Anybody that's watched him in white ball cricket knows how destructive he can be. He can take any attack apart on his day. But he's really batted within himself. He's known where his off stump is. He's faced some pretty testing conditions against some good English bowlers, and he's come through pretty much every single time. And this is the cherry on top, isn't it? This century at the Oval is the cherry on top of this series. It turns what's been a good series into a very good series.
Yeah, he didn't have any 100 outside India, so this is his first Test 100 abroad. Maybe he didn't get it at the other London ground, but he got it at least at the Oval. So London is a good place for him. And he didn't go absolutely berserk. It is his slowest Test 100 of all. He took his time. He hit those deliveries those were there to be taken, and then he got to his 100 in classical Rohit Sharma fashion with a 6-over long of Moeen Ali, and Moeen Ali had a disappointing day.
Ashutosh says if India has to set a target, excuse me, they will go for 350 plus. I mean, the highest chase at the Oval, and they've played a lot of cricket, a lot of Test cricket at the Oval. It's one of the oldest grounds in world cricket. There's been a lot of Test matches played at the Oval. It's 263 mark. I mean, I know records are there to be broken, and as you said on the WhatsApp group earlier, we've seen a few of them broken in recent times. But Virat has a history of being, I mean, Joe Root's the same, has a history of being maybe a little bit cautious when it comes to declaring. You don't want to set a total that can be chased down. So I think he's going to be looking at 350, 400.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to. I mean, one of the reasons why the chasing totals are relatively low is that, captains don't tend to give the opposition a chance. They tend to make sure that they get 400, 450 to close the game out a lot of the time. And it gives them the option of making sure they can attack all the time with attacking fields and so forth. So he's not going to declare and give them a shot at 350. He's not going to do that. He's going to.
I mean, Cheryl on the messages is saying, should India declare when they get to 300? I mean, the answer to that, Cheryl, is no. Why? There's 2 days left. Why on earth would you use all 5 days if you can? You make sure you win.
They're not going to declare until the 450 ahead on the Oval pitch. So Where are they now? 270. So they're going to give. Well, we've got 90 overs theoretically tomorrow. You need another 200 and odd, 250 odd runs. That could take him the best part of, depending on how they go, 70 odd overs. They're not 420, maybe 420, but they're not going to declare under setting England 400. They're just not going to do it. It won't happen.
Let's talk a bit about England's bowling attack today. My personal opinion, I thought Chris Woakes has been impressive with bat and ball throughout this Test match. I think he was quite unlucky actually with the ball today. He beat the bat a lot, and on another day could have found the outside edge 2 or 3 times, and it could have been a slightly different day for him. But I thought the other bowlers, Ollie Robinson, obviously benefited with a new ball, but apart from that, didn't seem to cause too many problems. Jimmy Anderson looks tired to me. I think there was definite case for him to have been rested in this Test match and maybe played Mark Wood as that point of difference at the Oval. And I thought with Overton and Moeen Ali, they were probably the 2 worst bowlers today for England. I thought Overton was wide and short a lot, particularly Pujara. When you saw Pujara get to 50 and they showed the show reel of his boundaries, they were pretty much all through the offside off Overton, short outside of the off stump. And I thought Moeen, it's asking a lot for Moeen Ali. He's not played a red ball game since Chennai. He's bowled a few overs in white ball cricket. It's not the same thing as trying to put a long spell together. So it's asking a lot for him to find his rhythm and find his, get his mojo right and his length right. But I thought his length was either too short or too full far too often today. And you saw when Pujara and Rohit got in, they were milking him for runs at ease, really. And he didn't provide any control with Joe Root. And I thought when Root came on, he actually looked a better spinner than Moeen Ali, who's supposed to be the front line option. Would you agree with that, Mark, and that sort of assessment today?
Yeah, I think firstly, starting with Moeen, I think we shouldn't be too critical of him because he hasn't played a lot of red ball cricket. But I think historically the problem with Moeen is he hasn't offered huge control to the captain in the field, even when he was doing well, which is why partly he never liked to be seen as a number 1 spinner because it put too much pressure on him. He's not that type of bowler who's going to come on and bowl 15 overs for 20 runs because he likes to attack and is an attacking bowler. And people forget about Moeen. We keep going over the same arguments to a large degree, but he's learned to bowl in his first-class career. And that sounds an odd thing to say, but he actually started off as a batsman. He bowled a little bit. So he's learned on the job, and he learned on the job in Test cricket because he hadn't actually bowled a huge amount for Worcestershire.
I mean, it's massive credit to him as well that he's actually turned himself into the cricketer that he has done because, as you say, he was a batsman who turned his arm over a little bit and he's turned himself into a very good off spinner.
Yeah, and I think we should just recognise that in the expectations of him. I mean, he's got a lot of wickets for England, but he have been relatively expensive, and his kind of runs per over are relatively high. And he is what he is. If you want, if you need him to bowl 25 overs for 40 runs and do a containing job, he can't do that. He's not that type of bowler. So I'm not going to be too critical of him. I think England have picked him because of obviously the lack of balance in the side, the worry about the batting, no Stokes, blah 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 blah. We go over the same arguments, and they want runs down the order, so that they brought him back in. And he's done okay since he got back in, but he didn't offer Root any control today. So he had to bowl his seamers on a flat pitch, probably more than he wanted to. Overton looked poor today. Look what he was, which is a very good county bowler when he encounters very good wickets against very good players. He's likely to be found out a little bit.
And that's the measure, isn't it, of a pace bowler really, and of a spinner to a degree that. When the conditions are in your favour, you expect them to bowl well and look really good. But when the conditions aren't in your favour, it's what have you got up your sleeve to still stay in the game, isn't it?
Well, I think that's you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's the problem with some of English seamers like Overton, like Curran. Yeah, they need the conditions to be able to perform. The idea that England go to Australia and Craig Overton is one of the main bowlers with a kookaburra ball, etc., etc. To me that's a difficult thing to imagine, and England winning in that scenario. So you get what you get with these players. I mean, he's obviously a very good professional. He's a good bowler when the conditions are right. But when the pitch is flat, when the sun's out, we have the same issues time and time again. They don't, they haven't got the skill sets to a large degree because they're kind of brought up on county wickets where over the last 10 years they haven't really had to develop huge amount of skills to get wickets because the pitch has been quite live and the time it's played of the year.
I'm going to run through some of the messages, Rito. Have a listen to these, and if you want to come back on any of these points, please do. Vasant's saying that he thinks the Pujara wicket was the one that opened the door for England today. Shale saying, yes, the pitch is flat, but apart from Joe Root, there's nobody who can play a long innings. So even if conditions are in England's favour, is there anybody that can actually keep Joe Root company and chase down? That's kind of like 350, 400 score even. Rennie Ditchy has said, how much do you think England would be comfortable in chasing? That's a question we can come on to in a second. Shale says, what role is Moeen Ali doing in this side? He gets 20s and 30s and does not have any control over his bowling. I think he's slightly better than that, Shale. And as I say, he's been out of the red ball arena for some time. So it's difficult. In the same way that people have been critical of Johnny Bairstow's keeping, I'd prefer to see somebody have 2 or 3 matches in a row and then assess where they are rather than actually just kind of go off one innings of a test match after they've not actually performed that role for a while. Akatush is basically saying more you bat, more bad the pitch will get, he's saying. So the longer India bat, then when England start, the pitch will have presumably have deteriorated a little bit by then. And Shell's also saying Jack Leach would have been given control to Joe Root. He's a far better bowler in Shell's opinion. Anand, our Badger, our compatriot on these podcasts, is saying it's a flat pitch. Are people being too critical of Moeen? Rito, pick the bones out of them.
Yep, before criticizing Moeen Ali too much, let's remember he was picked in this England team on the basis of 100 form. So we can't expect a lot from Moeen Ali. Yeah, but the thing that baffles me, all of a sudden, why has he been promoted to vice captain in this side? When he has been promoted to vice captain, then he must take some responsibility because he's the second most important player in this England team after Joe Root. So the way he bowled today was disappointing, really, because there was some help in the surface, a couple of balls, one very early in the spell, and he just couldn't land it on the same spot.
There was one towards the end of today that pitched in the footmark and turned square, and Bairstow had to really go to his left to try and take it, and it nearly went to slip in the end. And I looked at that and I thought Jadeja was the batsman to that, and Jadeja would have been thinking, actually, that's quite hard to bat against, but I can't wait to get the ball in my hand because left arm into that footmark, he's going to cause some issues if he can land it in that same spot.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to ask a lot of questions, Ravi Jadeja. At the moment, he is batting out there, and India needs him with the bat as well, score some vital runs with Virat Kohli, and then get the ball in his hand. As Virat Kohli said before the match, that he is going to be a matchup against the left-handers and right-handers, obviously. So this pitch, although it's flat, but there's a bit of purchase for the spinners. And that's why it's so disappointing that Moeen just couldn't land it in the spot. If he did, I am sure he would have asked a lot of questions because this Indian players can't play spin.
Let me ask you both a question, and whoever comes in first can answer it. KL Rahul, his dismissal. He batted really nicely today, I thought, KL, but the looked to me to be a blatant edge, and he seemed to still be chuntering about not having hit it when he was still, an hour later in the dressing room, sort of stomping around in the background. He was suggesting on the pitch there that he felt that his bat had grazed his pad, and that might have been any noise that the fielders had heard. But to me, the spike was when the bat passed the ball and the bat was nowhere near the pad. So I don't know what he was. I mean, I've been on commentary, so I couldn't hear what the pundits on TV coverage was suggesting. But what was your take on that, Mark?
Well, it was out. I mean, the ultra was
simple as.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was disappointing with him. I think he couldn't quite. It's obviously too noisy. The bat went onto his pad, and I think he just couldn't believe that he touched it. Obviously, the thing that got me seemed to when he was walking off, he was still having a go at the umpire about the umpire didn't give him out. He's like was talking to Alex Wolff when he was walking off, as though, why did you do that? I think he was just incredibly disappointed, obviously, but I think so. We had it with DRS before when players have felt they haven't touched him, the batters hit the pad and so forth. And I think it's just disappointment because actually, he was playing beautifully. He was playing really well. He played really well.
I'll tell you what as well. There was a stop from Ollie Pope, I think it was, at backward point. The ball before KL, I think, thought he'd got a 50. He's cracked it away square on the offside, and Ollie Pope dived to his left, stopped it, and prevented the run. And then the next ball saw KL Rahul out. And I think sometimes you overlook that when you look back at a day's play. That piece of fielding from Ollie Pope actually contributed to that wicket, I think.
Yeah, and it did actually. I'm just thinking about it now. It shows you the importance of fielding in the modern game, and obviously the improvement of it. But yeah, and he may well have been kind of contemplating that himself, walking off, that either side had got a 50. That might have been in the back of his mind, but I think it was just intense disappointment from him because he probably felt on that pitch he'd got through the difficult part of it, and there was another ton on for him. And he just obviously didn't think he hit the ball when patently he did. So.
I want to finish today with two sort of themes, if you like. The first one is there's floodlights at these grounds. You could see the effect of the floodlights on Moeen Ali's head and the umpires' white jackets, etc., towards the end of the day. So obviously light was an issue because TV cameras always make it look brighter than it is at the grounds. But are we getting to a stage now where, just to give supporters value for money at grounds, Rito, we actually use these floodlights and the game continues until the floodlights have completely taken over or whatever, or it's completely dark? We need to kind of, we're going to get onto slow over rates in a second, but shouldn't we have been able to just use the effect of those floodlights to see play through to the end today?
Yeah, it's disappointing to see them coming off early, even though there are floodlights there. But it's a dark red Dukes for that, and it's relatively new, so it's very dark in color. It's difficult for the batsman to pick them up, and it's difficult for the fielders to pick it up as well. So maybe when it's getting darker, they can bring out a new pink cherry, which they do for day-night test cricket. But with the dark red ball, it's going to be difficult, even if the floodlights are down.
What do you think, Mark? Should the floodlights take over, and should we be able to get through to the proper close of play?
I'm getting confused about all the backlight stuff and floodlights and the changes. In the past, if it was dangerous to the player and so forth, but apparently that's now changed. I think the issue is at the moment when the floodlights start taking over from the natural light rather than enhancing it, and the shadows start coming on with the red ball, then they go off, and that's the rule at the moment. So that's what they need to look at changing, maybe. It is difficult with the red ball, and picking it up in the background, particularly when there's shadows over the pitch. So you have to be fair to the players. I mean, if you're looking at it on a long-term view, you could say actually we play more now than we ever have done, and without the lights on today, we might not have played half of that. So to lose 45 minutes in that scenario is
fair point. For me, it's kind of like it's an entertainment. I know it's kind of feels like life and death when you're embroiled in a game and the players will be really invested in it, but it is a version of entertainment. It's theatre.
There's no danger to the players out there today.
No, but the spectators in that ground have paid their money for tickets. The TV companies have paid their money to broadcast a full day's play, and watchers at home will be hoping to watch a full day's play. And in your job, Mark, or if you go home regularly at 4 rather than staying till 5, your boss is going to have a word with you. If you go to a theatre and 10 minutes before the climax, they all walk off and say, "Oh, that's us done. We've run over time. Everybody, you're not going to see who done it." Then everybody's going to be demanding their money back. Yeah. Is there any difference really? Yeah, people have paid to watch 90 overs, haven't they?
Like I say, I mean, it's very confusing, some of the rules, but I mean, it should be if it's dangerous to the players, and it wasn't dangerous to the players out there today. And they've got these damn things that they take the readings off, That's what they go off. I've been at games where they've had spinners bowling at both ends, and they've gone off.
I couldn't understand today why Joe Root actually accepted bowling spin. He's got the new ball. They could start again tomorrow. Keep 2 overs in that new ball and not do it. What do you think, Rito? I mean, if you're doing your job and you decide to bunk off at 3 o'clock every day, you're probably not going to stay in a job too long, are you?
But James, it's not me taking the decision. I mean, the players are not taking the decisions. It's their bosses. I mean, the umpires are making the decision. So you can't take it against them. Maybe because
it's
the
the game.
ICC has to look.
It's the collective game, isn't it? It's ending early.
Yeah, the ICC has to come to a point where they decide at this point we will go up at all venues. If it gets darker than this, we won't play, even if the floodlights are still on, because the health and safety of the players are paramount, and nothing can supersede that.
So somebody made the point to me today. Where does the fines that they get, or for slow over rates at times, they get penalty deductions in the World Test Championship. Where does that money go? Does it go into the ICC Christmas Party Fund, or where does it get spent?
No idea where it gets spent. I know.
Because the suggestion from the person that came up with that comment was, well, if the ICC are actually earning some money from this, what incentive have they got to actually sort it out? Because they're not getting massive grief for it, and they're actually getting a little bit of a revenue stream every now and again too.
But the over rates, yeah. I mean, I presume for the ICC, it's like kind of pocket money what they pick up from it, isn't it? To a large degree, they're not huge. Yeah. Huge amounts. It
makes Secret Santa go with a bang, doesn't it, at Christmas?
I mean, the over rates, whatever they do, seems to get worse. I don't quite know what the answer is. They do different things. I think at one point today, wasn't the over rates were like 10.5 an hour?
Oh, it was pathetic. And we know they are capable of it. I mean, those of us of a certain age who go back sort of 20, 30 years, and beyond, we regularly saw over rates of 15, 16 an hour and even higher than that with the spinners on. And you can see now when they want to bowl quickly and they want to get through the overs quickly because it's in their interest to do so, they're able to bowl far more overs per hour than they do. But there's so many stoppages. There's so much tactical chat. And bowling sort of 11 or 12 overs an hour, Rito. I mean, that's almost criminal, isn't it? I mean, I know there's bigger problems in the world, but in terms of cricket, that is horrendous.
Yeah, James, the one thing that I find the most irritating about this game, about Test cricket, is that when it's bright and sunny, they haven't completed their overs, but it's time and they go off. Get those overs done, and because we are surely going to lose overs the other next day if it rains, so just get those done. And maybe the 6.5 hour things needs to be looked at now. Make it 7 hours.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen? You at the moment in England this place supposed to stop at 6, but you have that extra half an hour. They're supposed to be run over, and they still don't get the overs in the extra half an hour. You can guarantee if you make it 6:30 as the close and you run into 7, we'll have the same problem, but extended even further.
Yeah. I think one of the issues is that the players are so well remunerated now in terms of central contracts, particularly in some of the bigger countries, that even when you fine them like 20% of the match fee, that's kind of nothing for them really, because they're on these huge central contracts. It's like your boss fining you £5 for having, like you said, going home at 3. Well, I'm going to take an hour's pay off you, mate. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, George DeBell has a theory with the over rates that. Say you've paid, I don't know, £50 for your test match ticket and you've paid for 90 overs. If only 80 are bowled in that day, you get refunded 1/9 of your ticket price. And if you do that on a regular basis and it starts to come out of the game in terms of the revenue starts to slip back into the punters' pockets because they're getting shortchanged every day, something will soon start to change because they will start to make it, make sure they keep all the cash.
Yeah, I think that's one interesting idea. They would say, well, yeah, we're bowling less overs, but actually the cricket's more entertaining. Test cricket is more entertaining now than it ever was. So what do you want, more overs, or do you want the same level of entertainment and drama? So that's always the argument that comes back.
I want both, Mark.
Eh?
I want both. I want high octane, high entertaining, full overs, cricket?
I think the only way they can solve it is by actually starting to ban players. So you look at people's over rates and you look at how fast they're bowling them, and if they contravene enough times, and you start banning them for a couple of games, like in football, if you get so many yellow cards.
I'd love to know from the listeners, stroke viewers, and if you listen to this later, at cricket_badger on the Twitter feed, if you know where any fines go, which coffers do they go into? Does it go into the ICC Christmas Fund? Is there a charity it gets sent to, or does it go into onto their profit account?
Just to Tom Harrison's wages.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know where that money goes, because
that £2 million bonus part of the game. That's where it's going.
Well, I mean, over the course of a year, the amount of fines that the ICC get and the deductions that the referees take off people for 20% of your match fee or 50% of your match fee, that goes somewhere. So, yeah, where does it go? I'd love to know. So let us know at cricket_badger on the Twitter feed. Let's finish off then today with looking at the game, the context of the game ahead of day number 4. India go into day 4 with a lead of 171. They are 3 wickets down. Virat Kohli and Jadeja will recommence tomorrow morning, should the light permit. Is it a case of 2 sessions, Mark, and then see where they are and try and give themselves as many as 4 sessions to try and bowl England out? Is that how you see them maybe trying to tackle this?
I'd hope so, yeah. I think if they bat 2 sessions and they bat positively, they should be the best part of 400 in front after that, or 380 if you go 100 a session or 110 a session. Well, the over 8, you're only going to get 24 overs in a session, aren't you? So you're only looking at 50 overs in 2 sessions.
This is another problem with the over 8, isn't it? Because if the game's getting away from the fielding side, you've got no incentive to try and bowl the overs quickly.
Well, that'll happen tomorrow. They'll start slowing the game down. 12th man will be coming on every 5 minutes with sanitising breaks and God knows what. But yeah, they'd look to bat 2 sessions and get as close to 400. I mean, personally, I would probably declare it 400, but it'll go on to 420. You'll probably have an hour and tomorrow night. I just hope for India's perspective, that they do give themselves enough time without Ashwin in the side. They need at least, I would say, 105 overs at England.
That's a major factor in this, isn't it? Because from an English perspective, I mean, to say it's just Jadeja is very disrespectful to him because he's a very good bowler. But if Ashwin was also in tandem with him, then you would really fear for England. Rito, are you of the same mindset that they'll probably bat 2 sessions tomorrow and see where they are in terms of a declaration?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even India might not look to score quickly tomorrow morning, but they will just look to bat out time because they bowled out India in 2 sessions at Lord's. So they will take great confidence from that performance, because no one other than Joe Root looks in great form. Yeah, Ollie Pope scored up 80 in the first innings, but he is also coming back into the sea side. So how he will bat in post innings, we don't know. So India will look to pile on the runs, pile on the agony for England, and for England to come back into the match, they will need to take at least 2 wickets in the first half an hour tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's that every single time I enter a new session, the next half an hour is key. And this test match, it just shows kind of how good it is that the next half an hour of every single session is key, and it carries on being so. One word answer: who wins this test match, Mark?
India.
Rito?
Oh, India.
Oh, Rito's jump ship. James, I still think the draw is a definite play in this one. I think England can maybe bat it out this time around. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I think day 4 tomorrow, the next half an hour, it's going to be pivotal and it's going to be very entertaining. And we'll be back again, of course, tomorrow to review day 4, whatever the outcome of that will be. So keep those comments coming in. Thanks for joining us on the live video feed. And obviously, if you've missed this, well, if you're watching this, you won't have missed it, but you can obviously catch up on any day on the audio version of the podcast, which will come out later on this evening. But thanks for joining me, for Mark and for Rito. I've been James the Cricket Badger, and I will return tomorrow. You can buy things like this. If you go to the cricketbadgerpod.com, there's mugs, there's T-shirts, there's all kinds of different things on there. If you're a Cricket Badger, kick yourself out. and help me pay my rent. But we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.